I'm a lawyer. I don't scream. I don't throw things. I don't burn houses down. I take notes. I build cases. I win. So, when I found out my husband of 10 years had been sleeping with my younger sister behind my back, I didn't cry. I didn't call them. I didn't even tell them I knew. Not yet. I just smiled and said I had a late meeting at the firm. You see, betrayal doesn't break me, it sharpens me. Because what neither of them realized is that while they were busy playing games behind my back, I was already 5 steps ahead. They stole my heart, my trust, my home life, so I decided to take everything they cared about. Not with fire, not with fists, with paperwork, silence, and perfect timing. Asterisk, there are 2 kinds of betrayal in life. The kind that blindsides you like a car crash, loud, violent, and immediate. And the kind that creeps in quietly, like a leak in your ceiling, until everything collapses. Mine was the second kind. I met Jason during my 2nd year of law school. He was a CPA, charming in that understated, cardigan-wearing way. He wasn't flashy, but he was solid, dependable. Or so I thought. We got married the year I made junior partner. I thought we were building something. A life, a legacy. The kind of relationship people envied for its calm, its structure, its mutual respect. And then there was my sister, Chloe. She was always the fun one. Younger by 6 years, spontaneous, bubbly, chaotic. She bounced between careers like it was a hobby florist 1 year, event planner the next, then briefly an online manifestation coach. I loved her, of course I did, but I always kept my distance. Because Chloe had a habit of turning other people's lives into a stage for her own drama. I just never thought she'd turn mine into a one-woman play. It started small, too small, to notice if I wasn't trained to read people for a living. Jason would come home late and mention how Chloe had dropped by to borrow a book. I'd find an empty wine glass in the sink when I knew I hadn't had any. She'd randomly text me things like, "Hope Jay's been eating. That man forgets to chew when he's busy." I brushed it off. Told myself I was paranoid. But then, one night Friday, 11:27 p.m., I walked out of my office to grab tea and saw Jason's phone on the kitchen island, lit up. Message preview from Chloe, "Still thinking about your hands last night." That's when the tea kettle started to scream. And that's when I knew. The betrayal didn't hit all at once. It settled into me slowly like venom. It rewrote every memory, every family dinner. Every time I asked Jason to pick up Chloe from the airport. Every time she hugged me a little too long in front of him, I wanted to scream, throw things, drive to her apartment and bang on the door. But I didn't. Because I'm not like them. They act. I calculate. I spent the next 2 weeks acting perfectly normal. I packed Jason's lunch. Texted Chloe heart emojis. I even invited them both to a brunch I couldn't attend, so they'd go alone just to confirm what I already knew. They did. I tracked her phone. Simple G. She didn't even have her location settings turned off. Amateur, when it confirmed she'd spent the night at our place while I was out of town for a deposition. I took screenshots. Silent, precise. By now, most people would be crying into a pint of ice cream. Me. I was cataloging passwords, bank account activity, real estate documents, family trusts, business filings. I built a virtual war room on my private drive, every possible piece of leverage documented, organized, and timed, because Chloe may have stolen my husband. But I still owned the company that managed her trust fund. I still controlled the LLC that held her car lease. And Jason, his name was on the title of our marital home, but the down payment came from my inheritance. The prenup, which I drafted, had clauses even he didn't remember signing. They thought they were slick, they forgot who I am. Asterisk, there's something about betrayal that makes people sloppy. Once they think they've gotten away with it once, they think you're clueless, they start getting comfortable. Bold, lazy. Chloe started showing up more. She'd swing by my house unexpectedly to grab something she left, linger near Jason like they were in on some joke I wasn't part of. Jason started checking out emotionally. He'd nod through conversations, forget small things like my dry cleaning or our anniversary. I could see it in his eyes. Guilt, poorly disguised as detachment. They didn't realize I was collecting all of it. Every fake excuse, every accidental glance, every piece of evidence that could prove without a doubt that this wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. I started with Chloe. Her finances were a beautiful disaster. She lived like she was rich, but most of her expenses were being quietly covered by family accounts she didn't fully understand. And guess who managed most of those structures? Me. Years ago, when our parents passed, they left a joint inheritance with a clause. I'd act as trustee until Chloe turned 40. She never paid attention to the details. Just assumed the money would be there. She also didn't know I'd restructured parts of it under a shell LLC I controlled. Legally, of course. I'm a lawyer, remember? But here's the key. I could freeze the disbursements with just one form citing suspected misuse. And I had plenty of misuse to point to. Credit card transactions linked to hotels during dates I'd accidentally made her confirm with me over text. She didn't just cheat with my husband. She used our family money to help cover it up. Delicious. Jason was trickier. He wasn't dumb, overconfident. He thought that being married to a high-functioning lawyer made him immune to exposure, but what he didn't realize was that every shared asset we had, I built the paper trail, I filed the taxes, I negotiated the mortgage. He just signed where I told him to. The house, mine, the second car, technically in my firm's name. The joint savings account. Most of the deposits were from my bonuses. I waited until a Friday evening after he went to grab drinks with a client and quietly pulled $74,200 into a solo revocable trust with my name on it. I even left him $200 and a note in the banking app titled, "For coffee, don't spend it all in one place." Then came the emotional dismantling. I didn't want screaming matches or confrontations. I wanted reality to crush them from the inside out. I planted doubt. I mentioned casually, over dinner, that I was thinking about updating our will, just in case. I said, sipping wine. You never know who you can really trust. Jason blinked, paused, said nothing. A few days later, I told Chloe I was finally ready to forgive her for that thing she did in high school. I didn't say what. I just let her sweat and fill in the blanks. She texted me a paragraph later that night that started with, "I don't know what you mean, but if you're referring to exactly." I didn't reply. By this point, my spreadsheet was color-coded, timestamped, and categorized. Financial sabotage. Trust fund freeze drafted. Prenup enforcement analysis complete. Psychological erosion. Very much in progress, but I needed something more. Something final. I remembered Chloe once telling me drunk at Thanksgiving, she'd been working on a new business. A boutique design brand she'd finally gotten investors for. Curious, I looked it up, and guess who one of the main angel investors was? Jason. He'd loaned her $35,000. There were emails, paper trails, even one message saying, "Let's keep this between us for now. Don't want your sister thinking I'm playing favorites." Well, I smiled, because the company's filing was incorrect. It had trademark issues, tax issues. She'd used a placeholder IN that was never validated, and now I had a direct link between them. Commingled finances, undeclared gifts, and illegal startup funding. I didn't even have to report them. I just had to threaten to. Everything was in place. All I had to do now was let them make the next move, because what's sweeter than revenge? Letting the people who wronged you walk straight into their own destruction thinking they're winning until the floor disappears beneath their feet, and when they fall, you're already holding the deed to the land they thought they stole. By the time I decided to make my move, Chloe and Jason were completely unaware of the storm heading their way. They thought their secret was safe, that they were untouchable. How wrong they were. Chloe was busy living her best life online, posting photos from brunches, boutique openings, and weekend getaways. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, her finances began to unravel, starting with the freezing of her trust fund. I had exercised my authority as trustee and immediately halted all disbursements. Her credit cards declined one after another. Monthly bills went unpaid. Phone calls from vendors and collection agencies flooded her inbox. Her panic was a quiet storm at first. A text message that read, "What is going on? I have bills to pay. You can't do this to me." I replied with cold professionalism, "I'm enforcing the terms of the trust, which allows suspension of funds upon evidence of misuse. Please review your spending." There was no apology, no excuses, just consequences. Jason's downfall was more subtle but just as devastating. When he tried to access joint accounts for what he thought was a simple weekend getaway, every transaction failed. The mortgage payment was suddenly past due. My name, Was on every contract and payment agreement, and I refused any unauthorized withdrawal. He began receiving calls from the mortgage company, tax authorities, and the bank's fraud department. His carefully cultivated image of a dependable CPA started cracking under pressure. He sent me vague, regretful messages and apologies, but I stayed silent. Then, I took legal action. I filed papers citing violations of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, and conflict of interest. I submitted detailed evidence, email chains, financial records, witness testimonies proving the loans he had secretly extended to Chloe and the mingling of funds. His law firm stepped in. Negotiations began. Notices were sent. Chloe's little business was audited, and investors fled as the truth came to light. I never raised my voice or staged any confrontations. I didn't need to. Real power lies in control. In silence, in the ability to dismantle your enemies without them seeing the hammer coming. I watched from a distance as Chloe's life crumbled. Eviction notices replaced Instagram posts. Phone calls from creditors replaced brunch invitations. She lost her apartment, the boutique collapsed, and her social circle vanished quietly. Jason's reputation in the CPA community was tarnished. His license was put under review. Former clients distanced themselves. The law firm that once touted his name abandoned him like a sinking ship. One day, Chloe showed up at my office, desperate and defeated. She said only 3 words. "I'm sorry." I nodded, satisfied. It was the apology I'd wanted, not for forgiveness, but for acknowledgement. The final blow came with the estate. The prenuptial agreement, which I had drafted with precision years ago, included a clause stating that any material breach of marriage by either party forfeited claims to shared assets. I invoked it. Had the deed to our marital home reassigned solely to me. Jason threatened legal battles, but after reviewing the mountain of evidence I submitted, even his lawyers advised against it. Months later, as I sat in my office, gazing at the framed photo of the 3 of us from happier days, I turned it face down. No tears, no smiles, just quiet triumph. Justice had been served. Asterisk when the final court ruling was in my favor. It felt strangely quiet, no triumphant cheers, no dramatic speeches. Just a deep, steady calm. I sat back in my leather chair, staring at the framed photo on my desk, the 3 of us, smiling on a warm summer day, before everything shattered. The photo was a frozen moment of what could have been. I turned it face down. Not out of spite, but because that version of my life no longer existed. The fallout from the legal battles hit. Chloe hard. With her trust fund frozen and no way to access family money. She had to scramble to keep her lifestyle afloat. Her boutique, which she'd dreamed about 4 years, collapsed under the weight of unpaid bills, lost investors, and dwindling customers. Her apartment lease was terminated when she fell behind on rent. The luxury car she drove, repossessed. Gone were the Instagram perfect photos and glamorous weekends. I stopped following her social media months ago. What remained was a quiet, broken woman who tried to rebuild from the rubble. Jason's downfall was a slow unraveling of his carefully constructed reputation. Local news outlets picked up the story of the CPA scandal, with the sensational headlines everyone loves. His professional license was suspended. Pending investigation, clients left him in droves. The prestigious firm that once lauded his work issued a terse statement, emphasizing their commitment to ethical standards, and distancing themselves from him. But here's what no one saw: how I rebuilt myself. The months after the dust settled weren't easy, but they were mine. I poured my energy into growing my law practice, taking on new cases, new clients, new challenges. I mentored young women who had faced discrimination, harassment, or betrayal in their careers, helping them find their own voices and strength. Together with Riley, my steadfast assistant, we launched the Justice for the Betrayed Scholarship Fund to support women pursuing law degrees, because sometimes the best revenge is empowering others. The best part: freedom. Freedom from lies. Freedom from betrayal. Freedom from the fear of being powerless. Sometimes, I'd catch myself thinking about Jason and Chloe, not with anger or hate, but with a strange sense of closure. One afternoon, I received a letter from Chloe. No apology. No excuses, just a single sheet of paper with 2 words written clearly: "You win." I folded it carefully, placing it in my desk drawer. Because winning isn't about making noise or rubbing salt in wounds, it's about taking back your power and never letting anyone steal it again. I often think back to the day I found out. The shock, the betrayal. The silence that followed. That moment could have broken me. But instead, it made me. If you take anything from my story, know this. Revenge isn't a storm, it's a slow, steady burn. It's strategy, patience, and unwavering resolve. It's about knowing your worth and never letting anyone take it away. I didn't just get my life back, I built a better one. One where I'm the one in control. Where I write my own ending. And if you're reading this because someone has betrayed you, hold on, plan. Rise, because your story isn't over. It's just beginning.